This screencast is about food chains and food webs, and in particular, the flow of energy through those food chains and food webs. So here's a typical predator-prey relationship: Wile E. Coyote and Mr. Roadrunner. Why is the coyote chasing the roadrunner? It's all about the energy. We might think it's food, but it's really about the energy. Predator-prey relationships. We'll talk about some models, and a food chain is a pretty simplistic look at relationships that show energy flow, and it is just exactly that simple. Food chain shows connections, and so we start with a producer. So all food chains or food webs start with some kind of producer that's doing photosynthesis, capturing the sun's energy. That energy then gets transferred to some kind of consumer, and then that energy gets conferred to some other kind of consumer. So here the hawk will eat the cottontail, but the cottontail has gotten its energy from the grass, and so the energy gets transferred eventually to the hawk. Well, consumers, and that's you and me, we're consumers, we're heterotrophs, they aren't all alike. And so we've got some herbivores. Herbivores eat only plants. Typical herbivores we have around here: some wild cows. Caught some wild cows on film. And in the next field, I caught some wild zebras. So zebras are herbivores, and they get their energy from plants. Plants get their energy from the sun. Carnivores. This is from Big Swan. I caught this shark feeding in Big Swan, and it's a carnivore, right? Because it eats meat. And carnivores eat only animals. Sometimes animals are you and me, or a ball of baitfish. So this is in the ocean. So here's a ball of baitfish it's got this defensive tactic to kind of clump up in a herd mentality. And here comes some other fish that are going to eat the baitfish. And like I said, here comes some yellowfin tuna. They're hungrier. So these guys are like giant torpedoes that are flying through this ball of baitfish, just decimating it. It looks a lot like the lunchroom, doesn't it? So carnivores only eat animals. Omnivores eat both plants and animals. You and I might be omnivores depending on your diet. Detritivores eat dead organic matter. So here's some roly-polies, or some worms, or some slugs, or some centipedes, chomping on some dead organic matter, some material that's trying to get recycled. Then we wind up with decomposers. And decomposers are detritivores that break down organic matter into simple compounds. They're in the business of recycling. So here's the ultimate recycling. Here's a wasquy wabbit decomposing in just a matter of seconds in front of you that took days. Watch, here come some flies. Flies hatch. Bzzz, watch them. There's a fly. Kind of cool. So in the matter of a week, the energy was all used up in that rabbit, and nutrients are returned to the environment. We have various trophic levels, or energy or nutrient levels, that we find in a food chain. Primary consumers eat producers. They're the first trophic level. The second trophic level is secondary consumers, and they eat the herbivores. So that hawk is a secondary consumer because it's eating the herbivore, eating the rabbit, that lagomorph. Tertiary consumers are something that might eat that hawk. That we might be hard pressed to find something that we'd eat a hawk around here. Perhaps an eagle, maybe a coyote if it got lucky, if the hawk was on the ground. And omnivores, such as you or I, sit at the top of a food chain, or kind of in the middle of it, because we eat all kinds of stuff. So here's a cheetah looking at the gazelle. So what are the gazelles or the antelope? What are they? They're herbivores, and so what would that make this cat putting on his new sneakers? He's gonna do a little hunting, get a little far side, get it? So that's what makes cheetahs so fast. No, but yeah, you get it. What about this? Oh, look, here's Snow White coming home. Hi ho, hi ho. Oh wait, python escapes zoo, and what do we have with the python? Oh, look at those lumps. Oh my goodness. Sad. But it's all about nature, right? And eventually we wind up with, detritivores like crows, right? Secret tools of the common crow, a little roadkill action, because they're detritivores. They're kind of helping with the decomposition process, right? So it's all about trophic levels and nutrient exchange between these organisms. Food webs are much more complex than food chains, and they really show relationships between a variety of organisms, and they really show the energy flow in a whole ecosystem. So here's a marine ecosystem, so a coral reef, and we've got some producers. So those algae or phytoplanktons, and what eats those? Well, primary consumers like corals or jellyfish or krill or something like that. So they're the primary consumers. Well, what eats those guys? Well, the fish would eat the corals, and the sea turtle would eat the jellyfish. And what might eat any of those things? That's right, the shark is shown there. So the tertiary consumer. And where does the energy start? It starts with photosynthesis. So who's doing the photosynthesizing? The algae are, and they're giving their energy to the primary consumers. And what about the primary consumers? Where they're getting their energy, giving their energy to the secondary consumers, and finally the secondary consumer giving it up to the tertiary consumer. And so that's a pretty complex interaction of energy and nutrients that are flying through a food web. In this case, a marine food web. So food chains and food webs show energy flow and nutrient flow in ecosystems.